Greg's eyelids fluttered open. Blurry shapes swam before him. Where was he? He blinked, trying to focus. His heart pounded like a drum solo. This wasn't his room. This wasn't even his house. He sat up, fear gripping him like a vice. He was in a classroom, but not just any classroom. Desks were scattered and broken. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling like spooky decorations. The air was thick with the smell of mildew and something else, something rotten. A low growl echoed from the corner. Greg's blood ran cold. Two eyes glowing red in the darkness stared at him. He was trapped in a nightmare.
And so, Greg found himself in a place where reality twisted into the darkest of dreams.
The creature stepped into the light. It was a gruesome sight. Its skin was green and scaly, with oozing sores and sharp claws. Its teeth were jagged daggers, and its breath reeked of decay. This was no ordinary school. This was Monster High. "Welcome to the 3 Monster Schools Challenge," the creature rasped, its voice like nails on a chalkboard. "Survive all 3 levels and you go free. Fail and you'll be our next meal."
Greg trembled. He had to escape this nightmare. The creature explained the levels: high school, senior high school, and college. Each level had harder exams and even more terrifying monsters.
"The rules are simple," the monster hissed. "No cheating. If we catch you, you're done for." It licked its lips, and Greg felt a shiver run down his spine.
He couldn't believe this was happening. First up was high school level. Greg sat at a creaky desk, his hand shaking as he gripped his pencil. The test paper seemed to mock him with its impossible questions. He glanced around. Other students, their faces pale and drawn, scribbled frantically. Or were they monsters in disguise? He had to pass, but how? The thought of becoming monster food made his stomach churn. Hours ticked by. Sweat beaded on Greg's forehead. He was stumped. He couldn't answer a single question. Despair threatened to engulf him. He just wanted to go home.
Suddenly, a piece of paper landed on my desk. A cheat sheet. I hesitated, my heart pounding. I knew the rules, but the temptation was overwhelming.
He glanced around, his pulse quickening. No one seemed to notice. His hand hovered over the cheat sheet, his conscience screaming at him. Should he risk it? His future, his life, hung in the balance. Just as he was about to peek at the cheat sheet, a bone-chilling growl ripped through the room. Greg froze, his blood turning to ice. He slowly looked up.
The teacher, a hulking beast with 8 bloodshot eyes, stood over him, its nostrils flared, picking up the scent of dishonesty. Its massive claws tapped impatiently on his desk. A silent, menacing countdown.
Greg's heart threatened to burst out of his chest. He had been caught! Or had he? The monster leaned closer, its putrid breath washing over him. Greg closed his eyes, bracing himself for the worst. The monster's growl seemed to shake the very foundations of the school. Greg squeezed his eyes shut, waiting for the inevitable. But instead of sharp claws and teeth, he felt a nudge.
I cautiously opened my eyes. The monster was gone. In its place was a man in a tweed jacket, holding out his hand.
"Congratulations," the man said warmly. "You passed."
Relief washed over me like a tidal wave. I had resisted the temptation to cheat and won.
The classroom dissolved around him, and he found himself back in his own bed. The nightmare was over. From that day forward, Greg never even thought about cheating again. He had learned his lesson the hard way. Honesty, he realized, was always the best policy, even when faced with the scariest of monsters.